Welcome back to Afternoon Live. A lot of people are hitting the skies for summer vacations, and for so many, flying can be a stressful and pretty annoying experience. Our next guest wrote the ultimate survival guide. We welcome the author of How to Avoid Strangers on Airplanes, Brandon Blewett. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me about the title. It's kind of hilarious because an airplane is the place you get trapped with a lot of strangers usually.
It is, it is. The title is actually a play on words. And in the first chapter, I talk about instead of thinking of strangers as people or intruders, it's peculiar behaviors. And so I go through the habits of the stranger habits that people have once they're inside the airport and how we can avoid those.
You fly all the time, so I imagine you've kind of seen it all because you've narrowed down kind of the top unsavory behaviors, we'll say, of your fellow travelers.
Right. Yeah, 15 years of weekly flying. There was a lot of inspiration, a lot of material, and my therapist was like, "You probably need a healthy outlet to vent all those frustrations." So the book kind of came to be. I say that in a fun way, but yeah, you see a lot of behaviors anywhere from what I call gate lice, people crowding the gate before the boarding begins, all the way to the end of the experience, what I call the eager exiter, where someone's in row 22, stands up, puts their bag in the aisle, and the poor folks in seat 16A and B, they can't get back to their bags to retrieve them, and it winds up delaying the deplaning process more than it does expedite it.
It's so frustrating to watch those things happen. Have you been able to analyze the why of how this happens in the first place?
I think the reason, and again, I'm not a psychologist, but I think the reason that people get so entrenched in their own way is it's almost like you think you're playing a video game and everybody else is, the Pumbaa, the turtles from like Mario Brothers, but everyone's playing the same game from the same console. And I think that if you realize that everybody on the plane is also in the same boat, maybe that would help people be a little more patient and friendly.
That makes a lot of sense. You've got some practical stuff that all travelers can try to apply, like taking that first flight out in the morning. It can be really beneficial.
It can. So the aircraft that are the first flights out in the morning, they usually arrive the evening before. So any issues that are non-weather related, maintenance, flight crew, those are all ironed out. So I think those are typically the best options to avoid delays. With that flight, though, you have to prepare your sleep schedule. So get to bed early, because I think that when people are well rested, they tend to be a little bit less cranky. And also, if you want to avoid strangers, and not in the peculiar behavior, but most people are asleep on those morning flights, so you don't have to worry about chatty seatmates.
That's so true. I was thinking about that. An early flight always sounds like the best idea, and then you're up late packing because you didn't prepare correctly, and then you're kind of cranky, so you've got to look inward and say, I'm not going to be the problem on this flight today.
Right. Always pack snacks. A wise person once told me, "You're not you when you're hungry." So I always keep food on hand too.
Well, and it's kind of funny too. I love your perspective of looking at these things, because there's a lot of stuff that we've all experienced, but you take a humorous view and you also go, hey, I'm not perfect either. Maybe I've been that person before for somebody else, and that's kind of applicable to life.
It is. It is. And one of the things about writing this book is it was holding a mirror up to myself and how I travel. And one of the habits that I point out, I call it the conference call decibelly, the person that decides that they're going to read their quarterly earnings report so that, the people in 36B can hear at the very back of the plane. And it's definitely one of those moments where I was like, I've probably been that person. So maybe I should, speak at a volume where people don't feel like they can send me a summary PowerPoint of the talking points on the call, or maybe in the call before I get on the plane, right?
Self-awareness, we love it. When you've got some easy fixes, right? Like you mentioned the gate lice earlier. Everybody crowds around the boarding area and you've got to fight your way through. And people with the backpacks, why are they spinning around and smacking everyone with their gigantic backpacks?
It's like I always take my backpack off and hold my backpack and my in the front and my suitcase behind me to try to make as much space as possible, or to use as little space as possible, rather, so that I'm not, giving fellow passengers, a black eye or a bruise on my way to my seat.
Well, and I imagine that you've suffered some situations before of lost luggage or other travel nightmares. So bringing things on the plane with you that are actually going to make it to the destination because you're holding them on your person.
Absolutely. Always, I try to always keep at least, 1 day's worth of clothes, medications, toiletries. And I think one thing that people sometimes forget are chargers. You got to have that device up and running when you get there. And so keeping those chargers in a bag that you know for certain is going to be on the plane is always good advice.
And just really simple stuff like wearing layers, having extra clothes, things like that. I'm hot, I'm sweating, I'm freezing, I'm having every climate experience in like a 1 hour time span.
Right, because this time of year it can be sweltering on the terminal, but once you get up to altitude and you're cruising and that AC is pumping, you're going to be happy that you have whether it's a light jacket or a sweater in your bag to put on.
Now, do you do things differently at all if you're traveling for business or if you're going on a long, fun vacation, or do you kind of have things set in stone of your routine?
I am a creature of habit, but I do obviously when you're going for work. It's easy to just pack an extra shirt, an extra pair of pants, and call it a day. Whereas for vacation, I think it's actually good to pack maybe 3 days in advance because sometimes you want options. Sometimes you actually need to think through, hey, I'm going to be going to the beach, or maybe I'm going to be changing and going to dinner, and really thinking through to make sure that everything actually fits in the bag. And then that can prevent that staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning the night before a 6 a.m. flight.
Totally. Well, a lot of the stuff, it's silly, but some of it's practical, but you kind of relate things to professional growth in a lot of ways.
I do, and it was sort of cathartic in that way. I was in professional services for a long time, and in that career field, you're traveling each week, so it gave me the material for both aspects. But when I think about a career journey, sure, we all wish that we had a black limo drop us off. We were upgraded to first class. The flight was not turbulent and it got there early, but that's not always the case. And so some of these habits that we've been discussing today, I relate those to events that you experience on your professional journey and how you can always or how you can navigate those to end up at a destination that you find enjoyable.
I love it. Hey, thanks for sharing with us, and I hope you have no flight delays and friendly fellow travelers all summer long.
Perfect. Thanks, you too. Thanks for having me.
Brandon's book again is How to Avoid Strangers on Airplanes, and we'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.